Welcome to the recap of the Liveletter. In this video I'm going to cover the in-game news we got from the Liveletter, both things shown on the slides and also things simply said in Japanese. To be able to do that, I used the translations from the Final Fantasy XIV Discord. I will have them linked down in the description, as the translation service is what allows me to make these videos much better than they would with just the slides alone. We of course start with the trailer, which is available now on the official Final Fantasy XIV YouTube in your language of choice. We got Yoshi P and Morphle with us today, though you may notice they are in a different place than usually. That is because apparently the flu is going around in the office, so they are streaming with a different team today. The patch is called Into the Mist and will be releasing on Tuesday, December 16th. So keep in mind that is also when the Moogle event is gonna end. So we got about a week left of it. Starting with the raid and gear update schedule, the normal version of the Arcadion raid is gonna release on December 16th. We're gonna get the new elegant tombstones of mnemonics and new craftable gear. But the Savage version is not gonna release until January 6th, as that is when the whole team is gonna be back from holiday. It is interesting that the tombstone names actually are different depending on the region. So for English players we have the elegant tombstones of mnemonics, but for Japanese players it is elegant tombstones of memory. Which means in Japanese some people are gonna be going like, I am missing my memory by the end of the week. So starting with the main content of the patch, we are getting a new main scenario quest, a new dungeon with the Mistwake. This dungeon is part of the main story, and apparently we will be traveling around quite a bit for the main story. So that is gonna be interesting. There will be a new trial called the Hell on Rails, which comes in both normal and extreme version and is also part of the main story. It does have the creepiest looking train I have ever seen. Now apparently, depending on the phase, the fight is gonna feel quite different, and it is gonna be a bit of a memory game. As Yoshi says, where did something disappear? Where did I place a new container? Though he does say, after you get the mechanics down, it should go down pretty smoothly. And apparently, the reward is gonna be 2 totems this time, instead of just 1. The final part of the Arcadion is coming out, with the normal version on release and Savage in January. This should finish up the Arcadion story, and I am personally quite excited. The new Unreal is gonna be Tsukuyomi's Pain. For PvP, we're getting a new Frontline map. There is a Gold Saucer update with a new Air Force One. This one taking us actually outside the Gold Saucer, which is gonna be very fun. And apparently this one is meant to be a little bit more challenging. The Glamour update is also coming with a patch, which is gonna remove almost all of the Glamour restrictions. I believe currently the only restrictions that are gonna remain is some gender restriction on some items and restriction on the race-specific clothing. Otherwise, everything seems to be fair game. For Raiders, the strategy board is finally gonna come into the game, which hopefully will make things much easier when explaining tactics. Another big quality of life update is actually the command panel, which will add a whole bunch of new slots under a single button. For Occult Crescent, there is going to be 3 new phantom jobs added, and new beneficial accessories for exploration there. Apparently, they are going to be adding 2 difficulties for the new Fork Tower that is coming with 7.5. Both Decimal Dark Gold and Autumn Veil are getting a duty support, so expect those 2 to maybe have a little bit of adjustment to the fights. And if you like to change the colors of your UI, you can now pick either clear green or clear white. Then there is a deep dungeon update. So, if you are disconnected while soloing a deep dungeon, or if your entire party is disconnected during a group run, you can now resume your progress by logging back in within 10 minutes, provided nobody has been knocked out. Apparently, it will still count as a wipe if you or a party member are knocked out in the brief time your character remains online after disconnection. or if all remaining party members disconnect while someone is knocked out. This is to help deal with the intense DDoS attacks that have been happening as of late. In 7.41, we are going to the new star in cosmic exploration, which is Oasis. And our phantom weapons are gonna be enhanced again, and I quite like the Pictomancer weapon I'm seeing over there. That looks quite fancy. And the Astralosian one is absolutely gorgeous. Very Naltha look to it. We are getting a new variant dungeon, the Merchant's Tale, which has its own very fun little art style. I am so excited for this one. I quite like the variant dungeons, and I have been sad to not see one so far in Dawntrail. So I'm glad finally we seem to be getting something at least. And of course we are getting even further Hildebrand adventures. So these are the main features of 7.4, but let's take a look at them in a little bit more detail. We started with a deeper look at the Arcadion heavyweight tier. We got to see the entrance to one fight, which seems to have 2 combatants in it. Apparently in this tag team fight we do have, well, 2 combatants, a lot of water mechanics, and the HP bar for the bosses is shared. This is looking like it's gonna be a really fun fight. I have adored the Arcadion so far because it allows them to be so playful with the different fights. The stranger fights have been my favorite, like Honeybee, Dancing Green, and Shukarayad, and I think I might really like this fight. But I am biased because I also just really like fun water stuff. We get to take a look at some of the different gear. First we got the tanking outfit. There's a melee outfit shown on a dragoon. Another melee outfit shown on a samurai. But of course remember, you can glam these on anything. We got a shooter outfit. These are very, very mechanical outfits. They're not quite what I expected from the final Arcadian gear. I don't hate it, but it's not quite the style I was hoping for. Here we have the healer outfit. And finally, the caster outfit. The song Everything Burns in the Arcadian raid is actually made by Tom Morello. But apparently they just got sent the song about a year ago, around the time where the orchestra concert was in Saudi Arabia. And as Sokin said, God wrote the song for them, so they just had to use it. And I think that's absolutely delightful that the guy just heard that Sokin was a huge fan and just wrote him a song for the game without being asked for it. This is just so cool overall. Now moving on to the PvP updates. PvP Series 10 is going to begin with some PvP action adjustments. There are going to be new items available in exchange for the commendation crystals. These are the Wolf and Eagle Gear series. These are replicas of gear awarded for rank position in Season 1 and 2 of the Feast, with a different color palette. Past gear will also be updated to feature 2 dye channels, however it will look distinct from the replicas as the dye will affect different parts of the gear. We are getting a new Frontline map with the Workhor Chirtet. So in this new mode, those who go on offensive will reap the reward. You are trying to capture triumphs, and they cannot be retaken by other teams and do not need defending. So your goal is to cut down the competition while taking the triumphs all across the arena. The weather will change as you fight across the battlefield, causing tactics to need to change apparently. So to claim a triumph, you need to stand in one of the circles to raise your team flag. Once all circles have a flag planted within them, the triumph is claimed. We see a triangle version on the picture. but each corner of the shape is gonna have a circle to stand in. So it looks like there's gonna be more circles to stand in the more corners there are on the triumph. With of course the ones with more corners giving more points. It is notable that there is really no point in having multiple people standing in a circle. The time will always remain the same, so spread out into different circles. They showed us an example of the weather effect. So for example, the snow apparently will buff you. Also in the snow we can see what looks like the new mount that is coming. So maybe that is gonna be the new PvP mount. Another weather effect is the aurora lights. And with that one, rate of high point spawn spots increases and your LB will be generating faster. And now on to the Glamour update. Irrespective of class, job or level restriction. This does not apply to weapons though. As these do impact animations, weapons and tools can only be equipped by the corresponding class. So Dragoon Spear are still gonna only be glamourable with other Dragoon Spears. But the clothing is up for grabs. I personally don't mind this, as I think the weapons are quite a big part of the job identity, and well, it does mess with the animations. So I'm not surprised there's still gonna be limits on the weapons, but I am so glad we can now change the clothings any way we see fit. In other Outfit Glamour updates, certain class, job exclusive gear, starting gear and fashion gear other than level 1 will now be treated as Outfit Glamour. And individual items that are part of an Outfit Glamour can now be converted to Outfit Glamour without requiring a complete set. Which I think is going to be quite good, as sometimes I don't want to gather up the entire set, but I would still like to be able to stack them together to conserve some of the space. And when you're storing a new glam piece, it will detect if there is already a piece stored that you can combine it with. This is a great thing, and I am so glad I'm gonna be able to start cleaning up my glam dresser and hopefully make a little bit more space. Because I need more space. And we gotta look at the new crafted battle gear, and oh, that is pretty. The Reaper weapon is definitely a choice. But oh, I need these. These are all so cute. I am really enjoying how different the glam is in this patch. We are getting a very good variety, which I think is so exciting. And apparently the crafted gear demand might be high this time around because you don't really need to have the job leveled. Well, because you can use the glamour no matter what. This gear is gonna be so expensive if you get it from the market board, but gosh, is it pretty. Now it's time to take a look at the variant dungeon. So for a variant dungeon, basically you enter, there are 3 paths that can lead to 12 different story outcomes. Every time you finish an outcome, you get a little lore piece. If you collect all of them, you get a big reward. In the previous versions, it was always a mount. You can go in solo or with up to, or in a group of 4 players, and the difficulty is gonna adjust accordingly. And while there are only 3 paths, there are things you can interact with on the way, or puzzles to solve that are gonna lead to different outcomes. Then we have the advanced variant dungeon. These will have stronger versions of the 3 bosses, and you can fight them in any order. You can obtain a reward from each boss, and you can enter this in groups of 2 to 4 players. While the regular variant dungeon, you need to be level 90, and it will be synced up to level 100. To get into the advanced version, you have to be level 100. And then finally there is the Criterion dungeon, where you find even stronger versions of all of the 3 bosses in a set order. This is high difficulty content that is made for a party of 4 players, and of course that has its own little rewards. Notable in the advanced version, if you manage to beat all of the 3 bosses, you unlock an extra room. That is quite exciting. And I'm curious what's gonna be in there. Though I'm guessing it is gonna be some nice loot. In variant dungeons, you can pick 2 special actions for your character, which will allow you to have things like tanking abilities or healing abilities on other roles. As I generally go in as a healer, I like to have a tanking action and a DPS action. But depending on your role, you might want different things. This makes soloing this much easier as, well, If you're going in as anything but a tank, you are probably gonna get smacked quite strong, so having the tanking ability is very handy. Now, one of the fun things about these dungeons is the puzzle solving. I thoroughly enjoy the puzzle solving, especially because you're gonna find hints around the dungeons and in the little lore snippets that you find that'll give you hints on how to get other ones. At minimum, you're gonna have to do the dungeon 12 times, but you might need to do it a few more times to get everything if you aren't quite sure how to find, well, the different paths. But good news is, as you're going through the dungeon, you're also getting chests, which are gonna have some rewards in them, and you're gonna be getting new tokens that you can trade in for rewards from the variant dungeon vendor. So going in is never a waste. If you have not tried out variant dungeons, I highly recommend checking out the ones we have already in-game, especially as Mount Rockon is the current multi-mog challenge. And if you don't want to do it alone, you can easily sign up for variant dungeons and simply check the box to being grouped up with a team. Now, they showed off the command panel, which is basically a new UI element that has 4 panels with 25 slots each, and you can basically put anything you can put on an action bar into the command panel. The command panel is going to be hidden behind like a single key, so you just open it up and then it can go between the different panels. So this is a perfect thing to use for something that you aren't using all the time, but something you would still like to have an easier access to than going into all of the menus. For now, I plan to use this for the different emotes I like to use in game. So that is quite handy. And then there is the strategy board. The goal with this feature is that you are visually able to show people, well, how to do a fight. Basically, you can display a strategy diagram throughout a duty. You can share a display with the same strategy board within a party, which is very handy. Now, strategy boards have to be made by the players. They can either be started from scratch or made with a preset. But after a strategy board is made, they can be shared with a party member or via code. You can save up to 50 strategies and sort them into folders, with each folder containing up to 10 strategies. I think this is going to be very powerful for things like guide makers, and I think the group finder community is going to start using these quite a bit, especially probably using strategy board made by some of the guide makers, because I think it's going to make communication in group finder much easier as well. So I am excited to see these implemented in game and, well, how they're going to work when the community gets their hands on it. There is a little crossover with Fantasian Neo Dimension, where we can get the outfits from Leo, Kina and Cheryl on the online store from December 16th, along with their respective hairstyles and emotes. And that is it for the live letter. Tell me, what are you most excited for? But if you found this recap to be handy, make sure to give it your commendation by liking and subscribing. And in the end, all I wanna say is tack för att horva och ägde inte sländag.